city actually, but it's still a small town called Juno. You can see it's actually not so far from Korea. It's quite close. If we just took a flight directly, it's only about 6 or 7 hour flight, but we have to go a different way, so it takes 24 hours. That's where I grew up, in an archipelago with glaciers and mountains and fjords. And I came to Korea for the first time in 1992 on a scholarship from the 국립국악원, the National Kugak Center. This is my hometown. It's different than Korea. Korea is also very beautiful. And I got into this Korean music through Japanese music first, and then Chinese music, and then I came to Korean music last. So I started down this path because of two teachers in Japan. One is named Sawai Kazue, the other is Sawai Tadao. It's a couple, and their dream was to make Japanese traditional music popular in Japan. And the way they decided to do this was to get young Americans and Europeans and Australians, foreigners, interested in the Japanese traditional instrument called the koto. And then they taught us in America or wherever we were and brought us to Japan to play for young Japanese students. So this was her dream, in order to make koto popular, is to show that the foreigners are also interested and get the young people in Japan interested. So that's how I started out. Sawai Tadao is her husband. He died a number of years ago. Sawai Kazue has been active in Korea. It's on a number of CDs, working with Korean musicians. Anyway, they're both very famous for new music, composing new music for these traditional instruments. I wanted to share with you the very first piece I heard of koto music and show you the attraction that I had to one piece. This is just an excerpt of Kazue Sawai playing sanka. It means a song of praise. This is a piece that was composed, I think, in the 1980s. So it's very, new piece of music. But this is the piece that attracted me to start getting interested in the koto. And I studied koto for 1 year, and then I ended up in China instead of Japan. So I heard that in China, there's some kind of instrument similar to the koto, which I was in love with at that time. And somebody wrote down on a piece of paper, 고쟁, 고쟁, 한국말로 할 때는 고쟁, 옛날쟁. 이런 한자로 써줬어요. So I went to China with this piece of paper, and it was right after the summer of Tiananmen Square. So it was very difficult to move around as a foreigner in China at that time. And I tried to go to the Central Conservatory of Beijing, but they wouldn't let me in the gate as a foreigner. So eventually I found a teacher down in Nanjing, and I studied, and then eventually after that I entered the Nanjing Academy of the Arts, the 남경예술대학교. And I studied there for 1 year, and then I came back to New York, and I met my teacher, Wang Changyuan. She's also another famous jung player who emigrated to New York. And she's also a famous composer, so she's also playing new music on the jung, and this is her most famous piece called Fighting the Typhoon. It's a little bit of socialist, realist music for you. It's the dock workers fighting the storm.
战台风，演奏者王昌元。
대풍 같지 않아? 대풍 같지? The eye of the storm now. Okay, enough. It's a very famous piece by my teacher, one of the most famous pieces in the repertoire. So I'm going to unplug this here. So with that background, I came to Korea in 1992. And I was very interested in how these instruments were related to each other or not related to each other. And I formed an ensemble many, many years later, but I had the idea for it in 1992 when I first came here. We ended up being called 3Z+, so Japanese koto, Chinese jung, Korean kayagam, and Korean chango percussion. That's our website, 3zplus.com. You can listen to our music there if you're interested. So what I want to talk about today is show you a little bit about the history of the instruments, how they relate to each other or don't, but especially focused on the kayagam. And then I want to talk to you about how to listen to sanjo, because young people today, even Korean young people, don't really know even the word sanjo. My students have never heard of the word sanjo. Most have not seen a kayagam directly before. They've seen it on TV, but never with their own eyes. I want to show you a little bit about the kayagam itself, the sort of mythology or the legends or the what's the word in English? I forgot. Anyway, about the instrument, and then after I teach you how to listen to sanjo, we're going to have a little concert for you. So we look at the history of all these instruments, all the stringed instruments in Asia. Usually it's related, usually they say the first one is a bow. A hunter would be playing the bow and twanging on the bow, and then they thought, oh, it's an instrument. The next instrument after the bow is called the kongho. Kongho, 한국말로 kongho인가? Kongho. And after they developed kongho, you can find kongho in Korea, and you can find them sort of reimagined in China now that people are playing them again, but it's very much played like a harp now. After they made this kongho, then they made something called the lying down kongho. So it's the wo. In Korean, what is this character? This character here. 한국말로 어떻게 하는지 아는 사람 있어요?
한자.
이게 밑에.
송대.
이거.
어디도.
여기 이거 하면 밑에 있는 거.
밑에 있는 거.
이거. Kongho. Wa. In Chinese is wo, and so it means to be lying down, to sleep.
Lying down.
So they take the Kongho and put it lying down at a baseboard, and then you have these kind of zither instruments. And I just found out about this because China is sort of reinventing. They want to now take claim for the Komungo. So when we think of the Komungo, we think of Koguryo caves up in the northern part of Korea. But they have started to develop an instrument that starts to lay claim to the origin of the Komungo. So this is called the wa Kongho. And you can see it looks very much like Komungo with these raised frets. There's also some similar instrument in Thailand related to Komungo. And this is a new imagination of that. It looks like a kogum, chilyeongum, kogum, 한국말로, or guqin in Chinese. I don't know how you play this instrument, but as you can see, it's starting to look like a komungo. After the komungo, the lying down zither, then we have the sil. In Korean, the sil. And usually this is considered the origin of the jang, the jang, 한국말로 jang, or kayagum. This instrument had 25 strings. You can find it. It was played probably in Confucian temples for ritual purposes. And usually the Chinese like to also lay claim to the koto and the kayagum through a legend around its instrument. As you know, the word for 전쟁, to have a war, right? Jang is the word for war. So it's an onomatopoeia for the sound of the instrument. And the name of the jang in China, maybe it has to do with the sound of the jang. Jang, 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 jaka, 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 jang, 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 jang. So there's either that or there's this relation to war as well, as an onomatopoeia to the Chinese character. So there was two princesses in China, and they were fighting over who's going to get to play the 25-string sil on one day. And they fought so hard that the zither broke in half. And since it has 25 strings, you can't keep the string number straight, right? So one half had 12 strings and went to Korea. One half had 12 strings, one had 13 strings, and the girls were banished from the kingdom by their father. So one brought the 12-string half of the instrument to Korea and it became the kayagum, and the other girl was sent to Japan where it became the koto. Do you believe it? This is another picture. These are instruments that came out of the Maungdae tombs in southern China. So, onto the kayagum. The kayagum was invented by King Kashil. Let's say it was commissioned by King Kashil, and it was commissioned on the image of the jung, so a board with bridges on it. And this is a picture of the modern jung. And one interesting thing I've just started to see in China now is that they're starting to play the instrument like a kayagum. I mean, we play the kayagum on our laps, right? Usually in China, though, since at least the Qing dynasty, they've used stands to play the guzheng. They're starting to play on their lap again, but the instrument is huge, so you have these little kids with this huge, heavy instrument on their laps, and it's all sort of falling on the floor. It's very interesting development. In any case, this is also kind of modern looking plastic disco gem. Okay, so the original kayagum that was commissioned by King Kashil was commissioned in 551, and at that time Shilla was about to, let's call it, annex Kaya. In other words, Kaya was defeated and the refugees had to flee. So Udo took the kayagum that he had made for the state of Kaya and took it with him to Shilla. And he also had, several pieces that he had composed for the instrument that he took with him. And he presented his pieces to King Jinhung, who was the king of Shilla at that time. And these 12 pieces that he played were not very much liked by the king of Shilla, because they were actually different countries and they had their own music. we have remnants today of different kinds of music in Korea. The northern styles are different than the southern styles, southwestern styles, which are different than the southeastern styles. So Shillins didn't like the Kayan music. So he got his own composers on board and recomposed the 12 pieces. The 3 musicians' names were Popji, Kegyo, and Mando. And they made 5 new pieces out of the old 12 pieces and presented them before the king, who said that they were great music. Dayak. And that's how we have the kayagum still today. And what we still call it the kayagum. We call it the kayagum, but in Japan they don't call it the kayagum. Even though the kayagum went from Korea to Japan, in Korea they call it the shiragum. Shiragi koto in Japanese, shiragi koto. And you can see the first, an old anyway, shiragum in the museum in Kyoto, the famous museum there. The very first images we have of the kayagum are, you can see them yourself if you go down to the Gyeongju National Museum. And they're made out of pottery and on the lid of a jar from the 5th and 6th century Shilla. This is National Treasure 195. And usually in books they won't show you the whole thing because it's a lot of activity that's, let's call it fertility kind of rites kind of activity going on. And you can see there's a pregnant woman here playing a old kind of popgum, kayagum. There's a snake going under. There's some stuff going on here. There's much more of that stuff going on the backside. But this is the first image we have of the kayagum. So we think it's related to some kind of fertility rites, related to shamanism, probably. Or, we don't know. That's what we have left as far as the first kayagum. 최초의 kayagum이야. So we have 2 kinds of kayagum traditionally. Now we have many more different kinds of kayagum. And most of what you're seeing today, as opposed to 25 years ago, is the 25-string kayagum. Whoa. Nothing? So when I first came here in 1992, we had up to 17-string kayagum. So we had on the bottom is the popgum. Usually when we talk about the old style kayagum or the history of kayagum, we're really talking about this instrument popgum. And the space between the strings is the same as the Japanese koto. The playing technique is also the same as the Japanese koto. And it's different than this sanjo kayagum, what you're going to hear today. Anyway, it's bigger. It's made out of 1 piece of hollowed log or wood. Whereas this instrument here is made out of different woods that are glued together. But we also had, so first new kayagum was 15-string, there was a 16-string, 17, 18-string. Up to 18 strings you still play like a kayagum, but after 18 strings it really becomes like a harp and a diatonically tuned instrument. You can see here at the end, the kayagum hasn't lost all its sort of relation to shamanism and to nature. At the end you see we have ram's horns here. On this, on the little kayagum, the 12-string kayagum, we still have the ram's horns, but they're very small. So you can see it's just like baby ram's horns. But they're still there just to keep the the meaning of it. And what's interesting to me about the kayagum is usually when we think about the Japanese instrument or the Chinese instrument, usually it's related to imagery related to dragons. So it should look like a crouching dragon, like this should be the dragon. In Korea, the instrument is much more sort of philosophical, and any sort of animal relations are to birds and not to dragons. So it's kind of like the yin to the Chinese, Japanese yang instrument. The dragons, and this is phoenixes and wild geese kind of instrument. And that is somewhat related to the Chinese guqin, the kogum. But you can see here we have, these are the crane's feet. Crane's not the anjok, it's the wild goose feet. Should look like the wild goose feet. Here we have the pongmi. It's the tail of the phoenix. Here on the back we have the moon and the sun. Here in the middle, what do you think it is? 이거 뭐예요? 무슨 모양이에요? 여기는.
It looks like a rain cloud.
A rain cloud, yeah, it looks like a rain cloud. So a lot of people think it looks like the clouds, but we consider it to be the like whole universe with man or person sort of in between it. So you have the whole sort of the whole earth and the whole universe encapsulated here. Also you have a sun and moon, sometimes you have a bird here. And then you have 12 strings, right? What do you have 12 of? What do we have 12 of in the universe? With the sun and moon.
Months.
Exactly. It's 12 months. So here we have time and space. Everything is in this. And here, what do you think? What do you think comes out of here? When we play really well, then the dragon tongue comes out of there. You have to watch very carefully when I play.
Dragon tongue.
Yeah, it comes out. Yeah. You have to watch carefully. So this is the feet you can see down here at the bottom. It's probably the closest one that looks like the crane's feet here. And down here at the bottom, where the string is wrapped up, you can see these are the crane's knees. Crane's knees are usually black. They're white here for the instrument, but you can really imagine like older generations they're imagining, like, oh, let's wind up the string to look like a crane's knee. Very much closer to nature than people are today. So the kayagam, because Korea and China were very closely related philosophically, especially during the Joseon period, there's a sort of hierarchy of instruments in Korea that's very similar to how they exist in China. In China we have the jihyangum, the 7-string zither, the gongqing. And in Korea we have the konmugo. As sort of both of those instruments are considered to be male scholarly instruments that the yangban would play, right? And the kayagam was the female instruments, the guzheng in China. The bridge zithers are the women's instruments for entertainment. So I said the other East Asian zithers are related to dragons, but we're related to birds with the kayagam. And you can see this is the image of the koto. Just very quickly, you can see there's all related to dragons. So yongmi, dragon tail. Gak. Usually when we think of gak, it's a horn, like a dragon horn. Dragon heads, yonggak. Yongdu, dragon head. Yongseol, dragon tongue. So all the name of the koto is all related to dragons. In the back, you have the dragon back. Yongbe, yonggu, the breath of the dragon comes out of the bottom of the instrument. These are the picks that are used in Japanese music. One is ikuta-ryu, one is yamada-ryu. Yamada-ryu is older with the parabolic shaped picks. I studied this one, ikuta-ryu, with my teacher. You can see them in real life. They used to be made of ivory, but now they're made of plastic. Jung uses tortoise shell picks. And when I first started studying, they only used 3 picks. Now all the kids are using like 10 picks, and they cannot do proper vibrato anymore. It drives me crazy. But they're playing like piano and the harp. It's very developed in some ways. But here's interesting. This is usually, because I studied in communist China, everything was sort of all the animal imagery and the sort of spiritual kind of names were stripped of the instrument, so it was just called bridges and plank, this kind of thing. But I found an old book very recently, and here you can see some of the phoenix bird kind of imagery coming from the guzheng. So you have the pong-an, the eyes of the phoenix, pong-so, like the pond of the phoenix, and another pond. These are 2 different water pools for the, and then but then you still have the Yongdo, the dragon head here, and here they don't say anjok, not the feet of the wild goose, but the bridge of the, or the pillar of the wild goose. So a little bit different than the Kayagam bridges. So here we have the Kota bridges. These are the Jung bridges and the Kayagam bridges. And very recently, just in the last weeks, I've noticed they're starting to use these Kota bridges on the Gojang in China. I don't know why. It sounds a little bit strange. This is Sawai Kazue and Sawai Tadao's son, and he started to make like pink bridges and all these different colors for modern music. This is a Gojang with Kota bridges. So it starts to look there, and they're also, the Chinese have started to go to Japan to study instrument building with the Jung makers, with the Kota makers. So there's some really more interaction between the instrument makers, and there has been since I started studying. Okay, in Japan there's one more instrument that they have called it's considered not to come from the rest of East Asia, called a wagon. Wa in Japanese means anything like uri. Uri nara, uri is wa. Waga kuni in Japanese, so our zither, wagon. And the first instance we have of that are in the Kofun period, Haniwa dolls. Of course, these are related to Korea, so it's hard to say, who really owns what in East Asia when we go back in early history. But what's interesting is we have this kind of pongmi here, the kind of phoenix tail. And check out these bridges, they're right out of nature, just twigs off a tree. So I don't think you can press very hard on them because they will fall over. I've never heard a wagon play, but I've only seen pictures. These are the tails. This is the Kota tail, the wagon tail, and the Kayagam tail, the pongmi. That's how we tune the instrument. Chinese gochin. This is the instrument that Confucius played. So it's has the highest status of all the instruments in East Asia. It's the most scholarly, the most introspective. It's related with Taoism and Confucianism. Usually you can hear it in Korean literature, Chinese song, also Korean pansori. You can hear about the sul and the kum, 한국말로 kum, 그냥 kum. 오현금. 오현, it used to have five strings when Confucius played it, and now it has 7 strings, so 칠현금. This is an old, usually it's related to men, but in this old Tang Dynasty poem painting, you can see the women also played the qin, but they did it in the palace, whereas the men went out into the mountains, sat under the pine tree, and played for themselves or their one best friend. Here again we have birds. Phoenix pool, pongso, but then also dragon mixed up, yongji. But here's an anjok. And this anjok is underneath the instrument on the bottom. So it's here. It's anjok. 안족 있고, 그리고 용군인가? 은인가? 은인 것 같아. 용은인가? 여기 촉촉한 여기 안에 있는 거기. 창고. Okay. 이제부터 I'm about to introduce my colleague. Who's going to play with me today. He's a Seoul treasure. There's a 인간문화재체, the national treasure system, or the intangible human cultural asset system in Korea. And there's a national system, and then there's a state system, and there's also a city system. And Seoul is 특별시. So my friend and teacher Shin Seung-kyung is going to play Changu today. We're going to play for you pretty soon in a little bit. But before he does, I just wanted to give you a brief history of the Changu. Changu is sometimes also known as seyogo, the slender-waisted drum. And it has 2 heads. 지금 나오시겠어요? Shin Seung-kyung is the Seoul 문화재, and he's also 이수자 and for accompanying pansori. And he is also the isuja for the Namhae Pyeolshingut. It's a kind of ritual, shamanic ritual ceremony for keeping the fishermen safe down in the southern sea. He's very excellent drummer, so I wanted to just, so the seogo is a very slender hip. In English we say the hourglass-shaped drum. And the first image we have of the changu is from the Shilla dynasty again. And we have also from Koguryo tombs. This is the first image we have. It's kind of a broken bell, but this is a newly made bell, so you can see that what it looks like. And you can see that it's also very small here, not so big as the changu we have today. Changu probably came from an Indian drum called the yogo. It's a waisted drum. And this is from an idakka. This is an Indian drum. And this is the picture. This is the Indian drum. So probably this is the changu came east from India to Korea and Japan and China during the Shilla period. So this is, I just found last week when I was in Gwangju, I found a museum that had these instruments, so I took snapshots. So this is the yogo. This is the seogo, changu. And you can see changu and galgo, some bigger drum. Galgo 언제 쓰는 것이에요, 선생님? We don't use it. I never saw it and use it, neither did he, so. But some kind of bigger drum, maybe for court music ritual or something. This is a picture from the Han Dynasty wall, etched into stone, so you can see it's coming from it's a Senghwang and a Changu. And Chang, I always thought before I learned the character that I thought it meant long drum, but it's not that Chang. It's Che. I Chang Cha. It means the drum stick. It's made out of bamboo. Changu. This is Japanese version of the changu. It's called a taiko. Different versions of taiko. Long taiko, short taiko. These are little ones. They make a very high pitch. You put them on your shoulder and tick, tick, tick. A lot of the instruments that we have in Korea came from China during the Song Dynasty. And the Song Dynasty Emperor Huizong was very worried about the Mongols. And he wanted to make sure that the Koreans would not ally with the Mongols against the Song dynasty. So he sent a lot of gifts over to Korea. And in one of those gifts in 1114, he sent a lot of instruments, including the ajing. This is the bodzither. And that disappeared in China. We don't have it in China anymore. But that time was when all these changu came to Korea in 1114. It was the first time. Okay. So, a changu has two sides to it. It has a left side and a right side. 소리가 달라요. So the left hand plays the gung. And this pan is made out of 무슨 피예요? It is usually made out of the cow hide. The right side. You can hear it's thinner, and we play with the drumstick. Usually that's also made from a different part of the cow, or also made from the goat or the sheep skin. So it's a thinner sound. So today, I want to go through, so from this part you learned everything about the instruments now, so from now on I want to talk to you about how do we listen to the music that this instrument makes. And the most important piece of music for solo instrument is called sanjo. 산 means 여러 가지, scattered, 흩든, 한국말로 흩든, 가락, 조 is 가락. So usually we say in English in modes. Sometimes they say melodies, but I don't like to use the word melody. I like the mode better because it's referring not only to the melodic mode, but also referring to the rhythmic mode, which we call 장단. 장 means long, 단 means short. To together, it means long and short, you get rhythm out of that, yeah? So it's circular rhythm patterns and melodic modes. It's very much like Indian music if you know anything about Indian raga or something like this. Okay, I'm going to get up on the stage. So, in Western music, we have many different kind of modes. We have Mixolydian and all these kind of modes from out of ancient Greece, and this kind of. There's all sorts of different modes, but the two main modes we use in Western music is major and minor. Yeah, major is happy, and minor is sad. If we say very, very simply, of course, it's much more complicated than that. But usually, when we think of the emotion related to modes, we have happy and sad. We can get angry and all different kinds of emotion as well. So there's also two main modes in Korea as well. There's ujo and there's keimyeonjo. Ujo is major, cannot correspond quite that way, but in terms of emotion, ujo is major and keimyeonjo is minor. And then we have all these other modes in between that sort of link. We can link between ujo and ujo and keimyeonjo. So these are the two main modes, happy and sad. And in doing research for about what is all this, especially the old books, there's a especially useful book written by Song Bang-song from the 17th century, 18th century, 1763, called the Haedong Kayo. And this is a book for kagok singers. This is like court music singing, stuff you would sing in front of the higher classes or the king, to teach them, how to think about the modes that they're singing. So, ujo. So what I want to do now is I'm going to play for you modes. 켜도 됩니다. 네. And each of these modes I'm going to play, we're going to introduce you the rhythm patterns with the modes. So the first mode is ujo. And if we read in the Haedong Kayo, we see the English translation, it's related to General Shang Yu. General Shang Yu is famous from the Battle of the Red Cliff, the 족벽 전쟁이잖아요. So they're all related to Chinese people and Chinese incidents, even though it's a Korean book. So General Shang Yu, and if you look at the characters for General Shang Yu, you see that the 한국말로 항우, 우는 이렇게 날개, 새의 날개, the wings of the bird, and it's in his name. So I think that's why they chose him to represent this ujo mode. In any case, the general jumps on the horse and bellows with rage at his soldiers. 10,000 soldiers are frightened out of their senses. Its sounds must be transparent and magnificent. This is how the ujo should sound. And all the sanjo start with this mode. People think, oh, it's so relaxing. No, it's not. It's the general shouting at his troops. This is how we start the sanjo. Slow, but it's 씩씩하다. This is a painting of General Shangwoo on his horse, probably before the Battle of the Red Cliff. Now, ujo, when we think of the beginning of sanjo, we think of the first rhythmic mode. This is called jinyangjo. Jinyangjo is a starting mode. Before you play the sanjo, we have something called dasurum. It's unmetered. We can just play something, and then when the drum comes in, it comes in with jinyangjo. Jinyangjo is very long rhythm pattern. It's so long that it has 4 seasons within one pattern. You have spring, summer, fall, winter inside of ujo. So 그 우저 한 곡이 봄, 여름, 가을, 겨울까지 한 장단에 해주시기 길게. 그래 내가 들어올까요? So he's going to play one full changdan, and then I'm going to come in with ujo. I didn't play the whole rhythm pattern. 그 마이크를 밑에 놓을까요?
아 이거 잘 그냥
괜찮아요.
인터널 마이크로 그냥.
이 마이크도 쓸까요? 조금 크게. and 진양조. And usually when we play sanjo, it's a collection of these rhythm patterns, right? But the first half. So my sanjo is 72 minutes long. The first 40 minutes are in this slow rhythm pattern, starting very slow. So in a 10-minute sanjo, the first 5 minutes. First 5 minutes are the slow pattern. Okay, next mode is Keimyeonjo. This is your minor mode in Korean. And from the book, it says this gives you the story of Wang Zhaojun. Wang Zhaojun is Wang Sogun in Korean. No Korea has ever heard of Wang Sogun. 아세요? 아세요? Wang Sogun? 근데 중국 사람 다 잘 아는 아가씨인데. So she's a very famous girl in China, but nobody knows her in Korea. So she says when she left the Han court for the north, snow scattered in the cold wind, its sounds must be sobbing and sad. And this is the story of Wang Zhaojun. She has another name called the Nak-an, the girl who fells the wild geese, because her story is so sad. So during the Han Dynasty, there was a young princess, or she was in the court. She was one of the ladies in waiting in the court. And, you know, in order to, at that time there was no cameras. So you had to, if you want to get a picture, you have to get a portrait painted of yourself. And in order to get the attention of the king, you needed to have a nice portrait of yourself painted by the best painter in the court. And in order to do that, you needed to give a bribe to the painter. Now, Wang Zhaojun was an upright young girl that didn't have a crooked bone in her body. And she did not bribe the court painter, the portrait painter. So the court portrait painter put spots on her face. And at that time, the Han court was negotiating with the Mongols up north, the Jurchens, I think, actually, the Jurchens, the Xiongnu, they were negotiating with the Xiongnu. So they needed to send, as kind of bride hostage up there to take care of the family relations and integrate themselves with each other. So he looked through the portraits, the king looked through the portraits of the women in the court and picked the ugliest one, which was Wang Zhaojun, because she had spots all over her face. But then when she was presented to the king, he was so sad, because I guess it was Prince maybe, because he wanted to marry her, but she was already promised to the northern Han Xiongnu in the north. She turned out to be the most beautiful woman in the whole kingdom, or the whole empire, let's say. Anyway, she was sent off in the middle of the winter, riding a donkey, and she played the pipa. It's a extinct instrument in Korea. It went extinct in 1980s, I think, or maybe earlier. In any case, it's being reimagined and remade now in Korea. But in any case, the pipa was gone for a long time. So she played the pipa, and all these most famous Chinese poems like 장한가, the Song of Everlasting Sorrow in English by what's the poet's name? I can't think of it right now. I write it down. I can't remember right now. Sorry. Anyways, it's one of the most famous poems of China from Tang Dynasty. So you can find all these poems about Wang Zhaojun and her playing the pipa as she goes. The snow is blowing and the snow is falling, and she's on her, on her donkey playing the pipa, singing a sad song, and the wild geese flying overhead see her situation, and they get so sad that they forget to flap their wings, and they fall out of the sky and die. The end. So you have to have this feeling when you play the 개면조. Okay, 개면조. 개면조도 진양조로 할까요? 진양조로. So I also played it in the 진양 style. Kemenjo has this sobbing sound. And deep vibrato. So you hear this all over Korean music. It's very widely used, especially in southwest provinces. Okay, next one. 경드름. 경드름 is kind of a funny. It's in the actually. So within 우조 we have 평조, which means to listen sort of placidly. We're going to show you that next. But 경드름 is a kind of special mode used in pansori. And it was used especially for the chattering classes of Seoul when they came down to the countryside. So you see the governor of Namwon. When he goes down to torture Chunhyang, he and his entourage sing in this sort of 경드름 mode. My teacher always told me to think of the girls wearing the high heels walking around and sort of tick, 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 tick. But it was used for the 사투리 of the Seoul saram in the southern provinces. And I also think the gujang has this kind of, the Chinese zither has the 고쟁이, 그 첨음이라고, so like a pointed. So I was wondering if it has something to do with China too. When you have this sort of Chinese style. You can find this in the 경드름. So 경드름, you can also think of Gongminna. If you thought of a modern production of Chunhyang, this might be the guys that are hanging out at the governor of Namwon's banquet when he's trying to molest Chunhyang. It's a very modern story, actually. Okay, so this is in the jungmori rhythm pattern. This is starting to get faster now. So 장단 are made out of, most of 장단 are made out of 12 beats. And in this one you have the accent on the 1 and the 9. 그 jungmori 해주세요. 같이 계산해 주세요. 12 beats. 같이. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 같이 해주세요. 같이. 아, 경주름도 해야 되네. 경주 시작. 경주름. It's very kind of special, funny mode. Next is 중중머리. 중중머리 is almost the same as 중머리, but it's getting a little bit faster now. Still with 12 beats, but sped up. 어떻게 하는 것입니까? Still 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So when you know where the accents are, don't mix up the 9 for the 1. If you don't do that, you're going to be able to understand Korean music much better, because you're trying to tap along in 2 and 4, right? Western music is all 2 and 4. Chinese music is all 2 and 4. Japanese music is all 2 and 4. Korean music, everything is in 3. So sections of 3. 3 plus 2 or just 3. So 3, 3, 3, 3. But the accent on the 9 will confuse you because you think it's 1, but it's not. So make sure that you have the tong. Tong. The 1 is always with 2 hands. The 9 is only with 1 hand. Ta. Tong. Ta. Tong. Ta. Ta. Tong. Don't get those mixed up. So 평조. 평조 is the next one we find in this book. In the South Fragrance Hall, the Emperor Sun Hwang in Korean, plays a piece releasing people's indignation with his 5-string chin. Its sound must be upright and placid. So, 앞으로 오세요, 다 애들 볼 수 있게. 앞으로 와도 돼. Come on up if you want to. 볼 수 있게. 오세요. 빨리 와. And you know, probably if you studied any Chinese history, you know Yao Shun and Yu are sort of the paragons of uprightness and good kingship. They were Confucius's favorite kings from the Zhou dynasty. This is the 5 strings there. It was hard to find a picture of that. It's Confucius's chin. So, 평조 in the 중중머리 mode. 잠깐만 생각해. actually be in the Gaemyeonjo, but it's very easy to change between the Gaemyeon and the Pyeongjo. It's the difference between and this. This is Pyeongjo. This is Gaemyeonjo. So it's, one is happy, one is sad. This is the main difference. Okay. This one I put in because I was comparing with Japanese. So hirajoshi in Japanese is the same character as Pyeongjo, but there it's for a Western ear it's gonna start sounding sad because you have this minor sounding. Dun, 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 dee, 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 dun. This is Pyeongjo in Japan. So what we consider happy and sad is very much culturally decided in each country. Kukgori is the dance of the shaman. So this is kind of getting more and more fun. Kukgori 장단 is also 12 beats. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Imagine the shaman dancing, yeah? Kukgori, kud is the shaman ritual, yeah? 자진머리, 자진머리 starts to get more complicated. Now, 자진머리 is also 12 beats, but we're getting much more condensed, more and more condensed, which makes it sound faster and faster. 자진머리, for me, is the most interesting and fun to play, but also the most difficult because there's a real tug-of-war between the 장구 player and the 가야금 player. So there's a real dialogue going on in this rhythm section. We're always stealing time from each other. 하여튼 잔진머리. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 어떻게 시작할지 몰라. Last is Himori. This is the fastest 장단. Now inside of this is also 12, but it's so fast that we just counted 4. So fast that we have to count like this. This is how you count it. So we just count 1, 2, 3, 4. How does it sound?
저대로 치면
아래 그냥 하는 대로. 원래대로 가면 원래대로 원래대로 가면 원래대로 가면 원래대로 가면 원래대로 가면 원래대로 가면 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 이제 당당통 당당통. 빨라. 대면조. 아 이게 뭐지? 엄머리. 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 엄머리 means this kind of offness, off. And usually in pansori it's used for when some kind of strange guy comes out of the mountains in shabby clothes, or like a monk coming out, some kind of spiritual strange character shows up and you get the ommori. It's very much for those of you who know jazz music. It's like Dave Brubeck's Take 5. That's 5. This is 10. So, but you can think of it as 5 plus 5. So it's almost like Dave Brubeck. And this is used at the end of my sanjo. It's not used most sanjos, but in ours, we have this ommori at the very end, after the himori, kind of like a denouement, something like this. Ommori. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. There's no 12 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. Now you know all the rhythm patterns. You know the first beat sounds, tong. Accents usually with one string on the tak. This is just a Japanese score. You can see that in each of these boxes is 2 beats. In Korean, when each box is 3 beats. It's a very big cultural difference. This is a Chinese score. There's no rhythm really indicated. This is using the old goo.gl notation that they also used in Korea at some point. It's a Chinese simplified notation. Do, re, mi, sol, la. It's pentatonic. This is Korean. 황이 어디냐? 여기 황태. 중 어디냐? 황태 중 임남. So all related to this cosmological things, yin and yang, and you can see here you have it too. The 황태 중 임남. In the middle you can see there's the 궁, palace. I don't know what all this means. I didn't look at it. But you can see the modes. They're in here too. 뭐 황, 임, 태. 이거 다 여기 다 있어요. 잘 모르겠어요 나도. 나중에 연주 연구하겠다고. 근데 그림이 좋다고. 여기도 이 태극기에서 나오는 거는 음양하고 관계 있는 거. I still have to study this. I couldn't find anything in English, so I have to study it in the original language, which takes me a little longer. But anyway, I wanted to show you the sort of relations. These are, how to manipulate the sound. Jiang, 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 yang, yang. Different kind of vibrato techniques. So this is an old Korean score. Each of these boxes has 3 beats. Te, nam, nam, nam. Then it's read like this, and here's the chango part here. So it's the same across the whole score. 수윤장. Okay, 산조. We have 40 minutes left. But shall we take a little break and then we'll have a little concert after the break? You want to go to the restroom and have a drink of water? Me too. So why don't you come back at 3:30, and then we'll have a little, then we'll have a concert. Before we go to the bathroom, are there any questions?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Have you ever, played kind of modern or trot or Korean pop song?
Trot?
And whatever.
Yeah, I played a lot of contemporary music.
Can you kindly give us a special favor to enjoy in the second session?
Trot.
Any, not the old one. And it's just simple, very simple.
안 했어요. 안 해보세요. 관심도 없고. 근데 if you want to hear this kind of music, look up 미친 산조 on the internet.
Okay.
There you have a 백인연 선생님이 백인연 선생님 너무 재밌게 마지막 콘서트가 있었어요. 백인연 선생님이 미친 산조. 한 콘서트 whole concert is on 미친 산조, crazy 산조. 백인영 선생님이 돌아가셨어요. But his last concert at the 국악관 is he plays trot and everything on the piano.
Two quick questions regarding the first. I really enjoyed it. Although for a couple of years I enjoyed your performance 3 or 4 times. Well, I think there's 왕조수, 중국 여자 이름 뭐지?
왕자준.
I think you said she's a composer, right?
No.
No.
She was a hostage.
You said she.
Wang Changyuan.
Wang Changyuan. You are talking about socialist and realistic music, something like that.
Because she was she had to play in front of the multitude.
What about our music? I think it's more or less 양반 or coach. But do you think that there's any thing to with the political movement or?
Well, absolutely. The only reason why we have this music preserved in South Korea is to define South Korea against North Koreans. If there was no North and South Korea, you would have no preservation of this music at all. The reason why it's preserved, and it was preserved very, on purpose by re-establishing the 국악관을 in Park Chung-hee 시대에. 1960s, when he came to power, one of the first things he did was to re-establish the 국악관, and then implement this 인간문화재체, the 문화재체, so the intangible cultural asset system, to preserve South Korean, Korean identity as the true Korean that's connected to the old Korea, whereas in the North, everything, when you have everything's developed. So they outlawed the Kaemyeonjo because it's too sad. It's not good for the socialist, heart. Pansori was outlawed in the North. So all these, things that were sort of thought to be antithetical to communism were all, communism has its own aesthetic, and there's a whole books and books written about communist aesthetics and music and how music is changed to fit communist ideals. So you had this in the North. So you have all these 계량악기 in the North. It's all mixed with sort of Western ideas, and they're playing happy music. And by now, it's very much connected with Chinese aesthetics. So the Jung is playing, like with this kind of gesture. It's very like Jung playing, kind of beautiful music that's happy. There's no sadness in the communist. Or so the Korean music was preserved really against the North as a way of preserving, saying that we're the true Korea, and it's very much on purpose. I don't think that we would have very much preservation at all if there was no North Korea.
Another question. I think that you have 12 strings, but much more strings, or it's much more tougher strings than the guitar. What about your fingertips? You have a callus, 구둔살. How would you?
Yeah, when I first started playing, there was blood everywhere.
Blood? No more.
And if I don't practice, I have the same problem. You get the blister on your finger. But
now it's okay.
Yeah, right now I'm practicing a lot, so I'm
really?
nice and thick. But I cannot get through the airport.
You can use any finger cut? No. You are not allowed to use any finger cut?
No
Only
picks.
naked fingers only?
Yeah, naked finger. And we don't raise our fingers. We don't use our knuckles. It's really... And the other interesting thing is that we stop each sound before we put the next sound. This is very different than the jung is all about the flowing water. The high. This is jung style, right? Koto style is. stopping each note before we play the next one, or as we're playing the next one. So you only hear one note at a time. So it's very much like a human voice. You only hear one note at once. There's no harmony. There's none of this. None of. And of course, the new instruments have it, but we don't do it on the sanjo. Any other question? 무엇을? 있으면 있어요?
질문 있으세요? Any question?
없으면 5분 쉬고 5-minute break and then we come back and take on.
3시 28분이니까
We're going to put everything we learned today together in one big long piece. Sanjo. The school of Sanjo I play is called the Sanggyeomyeonryu Gayang Sanjo. If anybody wants to come up, there's seats up here. It's more interesting to see, I think.
Yeah, come in front. You can see much better.
앞으로 오세요.
잘 볼 수 있어요.
재밌게 볼 수 있게. 기회가 많지 않아서. 이런 기회가 많지 않아. So my school is Sanggyeomyeonryu, and I study with Sanggyeomyeon's daughter. This is a picture of Sanggyeomyeon, and I study with her daughter in Jeonju. So I go down to Jeonju every weekend to study. I'm working on a solo concert next week, so I'm nervous. And her sanjo is 72 minutes to play the whole thing. The way sanjo is put together with these building blocks of, rhythmic patterns and modes, can play the whole sanjo in 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 25 minutes. So you always ask the producer, like, how long do I have? Okay, then I'll play such and such long. So as we play the sanjo, another different thing than in Western music is that we have chimse in Korea. Chimse, chuimse, is a way to encourage the player from the audience when they're playing well. So there's, of course, correct places to use the chimse, but if you don't know it, you don't have to follow it. You can use it anytime you feel like it. 추임새 어떻게 하는 것입니까?
따라해 보실래요?
네.
따라해 보세요. 얼씨구. 얼씨구. 잘한다. 잘한다. 좋지. 좋지. 암몬. 암몬. 네, 이렇게 하시면 돼요.
이쁘다도 해야지.
예쁘다, 잘생겼다 뭐 이런 거.
So this is, we find this in kakegoe in Japanese. We have this in Japan, China, Korea. But especially in Korea, when I first came to Korea in '92, this was still quite widely yelled from the audience, and the audience has become silent since I started studying here, even in the southern provinces. But if you are happy with my playing and you're excited about my music, feel free to shout out your appreciation from the audience if you feel like it. So this is the order that we learned today. I won't stop in between the different pieces, but you might be able to recognize when we're changing the rhythm pattern. Okay, I play it's about 20 minutes left. I'll play around 12 minutes maybe. 사실은 노래도 하나 준비했습니다. 듣고 싶어요?
노래하면서 마이크 표.
선이야.
네?
오세요.
같이 불러.
자막 누를게요. 자막을 준비했기 때문에 please move the words as I sing. 그래서 방아타령. It's kind of a very funny song for the fall about beating the mill. It's a mill song, milling song, song of the pestle. So it's called 가야금 평창. 평창 means to play, accompany yourself on the 가야금 as you sing. It doesn't mean playing together with lots of people. It just means playing by yourself with 가야금. 방아타령, Ballad of the Pestle. This is from the story of 심청. 심청, the girl who sells herself to the Chinese merchants to save her father's eyesight. She sacrifices herself in the Indang Sea, and she's reborn as a lotus, which is plucked from the ocean and given to the emperor to be of China. He puts it in his favorite. He's a horticulturalist. He puts it in his garden, and out comes the princess. She's very happy as the empress of China, but she misses her dad, so they hold a banquet for all the blind men of the realm, and eventually he shows up and regains his eyesight, and everybody lives happily ever after. Anyway, this is from the middle of the epic song. Father is a little bit of a lech, and he's on his way to Nanjing, to the capital of China, and he meets some old women who work in the mill on the way. 그래요. 그때여 신봉사 동네 부인들과 방아 위에 올라서서 방아 소리를 매기며 한번 지어 보난디. 어유와 방아요, 어유와 방아요, 너희 그덩덩 살찌는다. 어유와 방아요, 이 방에가 네 방에 강태궁어 저자기로다. 어유와 방아요, 제구나 천왕씨는 이목으로 왕하였으니 남기 아니 등얼씨고. 어유와 방아요, 유소시 금옥서 일어나 무너지셨나. 어유와 방아요, 어유와 방아요, 그덩덩
흐른다 어유와 방아요 빈 홍안 너 빈녀 흐른다 가든 허리여 잠이 질렀구나 어유와 방아요 머리 들어서 오르는 양은 장해 무룡의 성을 낸 듯 머리 숙여 대장은 춥은 방어 전술렁가 어유와 방아요 길고 가는 허리를 보니 우왕 그녀의 허리를 렁가 어유와 방아요 얼그덩덩 잘 찍는다 어유와 방아요 오가지 뿌죽은 후에 방아 소리가 떴더니 우리 승상 즐기었다 재미난 나옵신데 물동맹인 잔치나 고금 먹음난디라 우리 또 평성의 다름을 하여보세 어허유와 방아요 널 그랑 딱 찍는다 어유와 방아요 여보시오 봉사님 우리가 이렇게 유리게 방아를 질 것이 아니라 좀 자주 지어 봅시다 그래 봅시다 어유와 방아요 어유와 방아요 어유와 방아요 간접 청상을 들가 길고 걸은 소를 빼요 이 방아로 흘러앉는가 어유와 방아요 방아를 맞는 모양봉이 사람은 피양분가 두 다리를 쩍 올려그나 어유와 방아요 한 다리 올려놓고 한 다리 내려리고 오리당 내리당 거들냥 공사먹어도 맹나구나 어유와 방아요 어유와 방아요 덩덩덩 찌른다 어유와 방아요 홍성천리 가는 길에 방아 지키러 정리로구나 어유와 방아요 어유와 방아요 허그나게 방아 찐덕찐덕 찰떡 방아 어유와 방아요 오맵다 고추방아 어유와 방아요 어유와 방아요 어유와 방아요 심참이에 투적구나 어유와 방아요 그덩덩 잘 찍는다 어유와 방아요
상황을 처음 듣네. 조셀린. 처음 들어봐. 멋있다 이거. 이 심청가에 나오는 거예요?
네?
심청가?
네, 심청가예요.
아, 무식해가지고 몰랐네. Sorry, excuse my ignorance. 방아 타령만 알았지.
질문도 있어요? 시간이 다 되는데.
한국말로 질문하셔도 돼요. 교수님은 워낙 한국말 잘 하셔서.
질문들 하세요.
네, 예.
좋은 기회인데.
한국, 일본, 중국 다
네.
한국 길에 관심 특별히 갖게 되시는 이유가 있나요?
마지막으로 했기 때문에 처음에는 나도 이해 못했어요. 왜 사람들이 국악 안 좋아하는지 이해해요. 왜냐면 처음에는 장단도 모르고 저도 모르고 우리 음정하고 다르고 화음도 없고 장단도 모르고 이게 어떻게 그 모시가 뭐가 있는지 그리고 뭐지 조발 무슨 아니 아이들을 심어시키는 날이 단어 없어졌어요. 하여튼 이 허스키 보이스 같은 것이 그러니까 한국의 맛이잖아요. 그래서 그거 우리 음악하고 일본 음악하고 중국 음악하고 완전 달라요. 이거는. 그래서 어떻게 이해해야 되는지는 몰랐어요. 그래도 장학금으로 왔기 때문에 할 수 없이 연구 좀 해야 된다고 이게 사람들이 많이 좋아하는데 왜 내가 안 좋아하는지 좀 연구하려고 그래 노력 많이 했어요. 공연도 많이 듣고 테이프도 듣고 그때 테이프 있었어요. 테이프 듣고 이렇게 공부도 하고 이렇게 하니까 점점 빠졌어요. 너무 멋있다고 우리가 조금 이해 들어가니까 조금 너무 멋있다고 생각하고 나도 잘하고 싶은 마음이 있었어요. 근데 지금도 잘하고 싶은 마음이 있는데 길이 너무 멀어 생각보다 쉽게 할 수 있는 것이 아닌 것 같다. 계속해서 그 공부할수록 이거 아니다. 점점 알고 그래도 점점 또 잘하고 싶은 마음이 생기고 그리고 계속 공부해요. 나는 뭐 1층 올라가는데 꼭대기가 너무 멀어. 네.
제가 요즘 국악에 너무 관심이 많이 생겨서 이제 여기도 오게 됐는데요. 핀선성 교수님도 그러고 여기 우리 선생님도 그러고 공연 이런 거를 좀 저희가 더 접하고 이렇게 하려면 어디에 좀 가면 될까요? 선생님 공연 같은 거 이렇게
어디 볼 수 있냐고?
예.
공연이 그 개인적인 작은 공연도 많이 이렇게 작은 것도 많이 하는데 큰 건 많지 않아요. 제가 다음 주 가야금 독주 거기 중머리부터 끝까지 40분 그 독주회 할 건데 스님 집에서 하는 거 방 안에 하는 것이니까 다들 못 오고 전주에서 그 다음에 지금은 공연 많지 않아요.
화이락 이거 매년 하는 건가요? 화이락.
아니요, 화이락은 없어요. 그거는 그 한독택 선생님 만드는 우리는 그룹 아닙니다. 그리고 창고 치는 사람 귀국도 하고 그 양금하는 아가씨도 귀국하고 힐러리 선생님하고 나밖에 안 남았는데 우리 화이락 없어요. 근데 there's a expat 사문놀이 team that plays around Seoul. 나는
네.
서울도 아니고
12월
12월
9일 볼 수 있어요.
거기
엑스프레스 서머놀이 팀.
멤버죠, 이거 멤버.
여기서
글로벌 페스티벌
여기서 잘했어요. 그래도 외국인들이 만드는 거기 사문놀이 팀입니다. 그래서 foreigners 사문놀이 group. So they're all doing something else, but they were interested in 사문놀이, so they made their own team. But you don't need to see me. 나만 그냥 다른 선생님들 보세요. 나만 보지 말고 진짜 하는 사람들 거기 국립국악관도 있고 국립국장도 있고 거기 광주도 있고 여기도 경기 도립도 있고 인터넷에 들어가면 엄청 많아요 연주가. 그래서 많이 들을수록 조금 이해도 하고 조금 빠지고 소리가 어떤 소리가 좋은지 안 나쁜지 장단 누가 잘 치는지 잘 치는 사람이에요. 자기 그룹 언제 연주하세요?
저희는
계속.
한국에서는 지금 없고요. 스위스하고 파리에서
유명하니까 세계적으로 하는 거 돌아다니고.
마지막 지금 원래 이 가야금은 지금 하신 방아타령 좀 장하고 원래 시작했어요. 가야금 순수하게 노래 없이 시작한 거예요.
노래부터 시작하는 거죠.
같이 하는 게 원래
같이 해요. 평창이라.
원래가
평창은 20년대에 시작하는 것이에요. 충청도에서 시작했다고 이 반소리의 목소리하고
평창이 무슨 뜻이에요?
평창은 같이 함께
같이 하는 거.
평은 같이 함께.
같이 한다.
근데 사람들이 보통 생각에는 이렇게 쫙 사람들이 같이 앉아서 하는 것이 그거 아니라 내가 내 아이 가야금 반주로 혼자서 하는 것이 그런
그게
뜻이에요.
더 좋은데도 가사를 보내주니까.
그 판소리보다 조금 가볍다. It's lighter than the 판소리. 판소리는 너무 이렇게 무겁고 이렇게 깊이가 있고 평창은 조금 가벼워요. 이게 거기 석화제일은 덜 있다고 충청도에서 시작하는 거에서 경기도하고 전라도 사이에 소리로 시작하는 걸로.
세계화하는데 이게 훨씬 much better.
Oh yeah, it's very popular genre, you know.
미국하고 같이 영어하고 하니까.
It was developed for the mote, you know. Not if you do the full pansori, it's for people it's difficult because they don't know the words. But you know, pansori can take 8 hours, but the Pyeongchang you take the whole pansori in 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So it's very short. Anyway, you can put anything that's pansori. You can put it onto the kayagum, but it's a little bit lighter. Everything's the kayagum is lighter than sanjo, and the voice is lighter than pansori. But anyway, it's all related. Same words, same stories. Yeah, we can also sing folk song this way. It's very popular.
그 3개 국어 그러니까 일본, 한국 이게 공부를 하셨잖아요.
네네.
약간 차이가 좀 있을 것 같은데.
언어?
그러니까 언어가 아니고 이런 느낌. 예를 들면 한국 같은 경우는 제 생각에는 뭐 슬픈 음악이나 기쁜 음악 약간 정적이고 약간 이렇게 마음을 울리게 이런 식으로 하는 것 같고 중국 쪽은 약간 좀 스케일이 좀 크고 스킬을 좀 강조하는 느낌이 좀 드는 것 같은데 생각하시기에 한중일의 이 어떤 이 차이점 같은 거
차이 있죠. 특히 미학적으로 생각하면 근데 중국 안에, 한국 안에, 일본 안에 받는 사람은 똑같은 마음으로 받죠. 한국 사람들한테 들어오는 거 하고 중국인들한테 들어가는 것은 다른 것이죠. 똑같이 받아요. 자기 나라의 음악이니까. 우리도 서양 음악 다르게 받고 그래서 이렇게 바깥에 볼 때는 다르죠. 뭐 이렇게 뭐 박갈린 씨 아시죠? 박갈린 씨. 네. 내가 처음에 올 때는 그 언니가 나를 많이 도와줬어. 우리 옆 사숙집에서 살고 그때는 박갈린 씨가 파소리 배우고 있었어요. 그 박동진 선생님한테. 그래서 같이 갔었어요 몇 번. 만나고 이야기했어요. 그 한국, 중국, 일본의 차이. 가을에 everybody can who understands English? Everybody understands speaking English or Korean? 영어 이해할 수 있어요? 영어로 하면은 영어로 할게요. 그래서 한국말 못하는 사람도 있을 것 같아서. So if you're gonna have a concert in the fall, this is the difference between the three countries, right? So in the Chinese version, it's outside. Sweep all the leaves away, create the bare ground, and have the concert in that space that they created outside, inside the bare ground. Korea, they leave everything as it is. They don't move the leaves, just play the concert in the natural space. Japan, they clear all the leaves away, and then they put some leaves here and some leaves here, some leaves here in the perfect wabi-sabi style to make this. So this is a really sort of difference in understanding space and understanding, you know, a lot of Japanese aesthetics coming out of the tea ceremony and Zen Buddhism during the Nara period, well later than that. But Sendu Rikyu is really the tea master that made you know what we really think about as Japanese aesthetics today, related, you know, wabi-sabi, momono aware, all these Japanese words that relate to nature and space and time, and also 계급. 그 음악 할 때 뭐 사람들이 조대할 때는 계급이 없어져야 되니까 그런 건축도 만들고 이렇게 그런 공간도 만들고. In China, of course, and Korea as well, this idea of the class is very much still stuck onto the arts. So there's you know, Korean music is very stigmatized as far as like class, especially nowadays. Anyway, your question was what's the difference between how do people receive the music, right, in their own country? So everybody's gonna receive as I said with the hirajoshi, the pyeongjo. Japanese pyeongjo sounds sad to most of us, right? Dun, 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 dun. So that's for me is a minor sounding. Maybe 한국 사람들이한테 계면조 있나? 근데 일본 사람들이 평조 편안한 마음으로 들을 수 있는 음악이라. 그래서 이게 나라에 달라요. 사람들이 받아는 것도 달라요. 근데 나는 가야금이 좋아. 근데 일본 사람과 중국 사람하고 같이 할 때는 이 박자를 들을 수 없어요. 다들 이해할 수 없어요. 몸에 안 들어와. 그래서 우리가 같이 하는 것이 힘들어요. 1, 2, 1, 2로 해야 돼요.
질문 있으세요?
Sorry.
The first piece that you played in before the song, it was very similar to some Indian
Yes.
classical music. I was so surprised.
There's a book, if you're interested in this topic, there's a comparison between raga and Kommungo Sanjo. Sonbang-song wrote this book, and he, for his master's thesis, or maybe PhD thesis, I don't remember, at Wesleyan University, I think it's Wesleyan University Press, he made a very deep comparison between raga, starts dasurim or alap, and then starting with the slower and getting faster. It's of course different, but it's similar concept. This we don't have this time of day, that's the raga for the morning and for the evening. No. It's just one 72-minute piece, and then inside is all the different modes. So we don't have it's not the same as Indian raga, but it's same idea, same kind of building blocks with modes and rhythm patterns to build it. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that was already questioned, but maybe I didn't understand. The interest for Korean traditional music with a younger generation of locals, do you think it's increasing or decreasing?
Well, it depends on what you mean by Korean traditional music. 그 국악은 무슨 뜻인지 그 의미가 계속 바뀌고 있어요. So when I talked about 국악 20 years ago, it means something that's different than it means now. So probably, the students, the first time this year they answered when I asked them about, is this 국악, is that 국악? For the first time they answered yes with Pachelbel's canon played on the 25-string kayagon. They said, yes, that's 국악. And I said, why is it 국악? Because it sounds like 국악. So this idea, this question of what is 국악, national music, 국악, it's a really good question because this meaning is completely changing, and since fusion has come in, this fusion, which means anything really, there's no meaning to fusion, but especially playing on the 25-string kayagum, in the case of the kayagum, all these 계량 악기들, and playing pop music on the instrument, this is becoming what people understand to be 국악. Nobody knows sanjo. Nobody plays sanjo. There's no opportunity to perform sanjo. 72 minutes, nobody wants to hear. Usually in the past they gave us 10 minutes to play sanjo. Now they give 7 minutes. Last time I recorded sanjo, they gave me 3.5 minutes. You have to put the whole sanjo, 72 minutes, into that. It's not possible, of course. But this 10 minutes is already too long for people now. The attention span is getting much lower. People are not educated in the music. So as I said, when I first came to Korea, all the audience shouted back to me when I played. Even in Seoul, of course in Jeollado, Namwon이나 Jeonju나, they all shouted. And when I sang, they sang along. They knew all the words. Now nobody sings. Now nobody gives 주임새. It's quiet. It's a Western style audience now. The audience has really changed. Audience means the environment for 국악. So if there's no environment, the bees are gonna die, right? I mean, it's insecticide. Everybody's got insecticide in their ears. It's a Monsanto ear. No, really. If you have no audience, what are you gonna play? Who are you gonna play for? Your teacher and your colleagues. So it's, for me, that's maybe my role here because I have a Western face, and so I can, in some way, I can give new interest just based on race. That's all. 신기하니까. That may be my role because I can't play like my teacher. Maybe one day, not yet.
I don't know. I think it's dying. But there's a lot of government support. But this idea that South Korea still needs to be differentiated against Korea, but now it doesn't need to be against North Korea. But now the differentiation is coming through this K-pop style for traditional instrument. Everybody wearing short dress and high heel and playing very light music. It's not very interesting. For me, it's not very interesting music. So 죽고 있어요. 국악이 아쉽지만 그냥 다른 뜻을 붙이고 있어요 지금. 또 있어요?
교수님 목소리가 보이스가 허스키 보이스가 원래부터 그러셨어요? 아니면
아니죠. 연습하니까 조금 부족해요 오늘. 안 나왔어. 아니 날마다 연습해야 이런 소리 나와요. 날마다 안 하면 오늘처럼 소리가 나옵니다.
맞춰도 될까요?
네.
고맙습니다.
네, 감사합니다.